What does a new test reveal? What do international and national test results reveal about the state of learning in the United States and around the world? The answer may surprise you. So, I've talked before about PISA, the Program of International Student Assessment, which is for children, young people. And there's actually another test that's for adults that's pretty similar, and it's called the PIAAC. The PIAAC is a test that is international, just like PISA, and it's given on a computer just like PISA, but it's smaller in scale. So I believe the PISA test has 72 countries involved. This has 38 OECD countries, higher income countries, Organization of Economic and Cooperative Development countries, and it's also got two subnational, the Flemish region of Belgium and England. And then it's got two partner countries, Croatia and Singapore. So that adds up to 42 different countries and entities taking this test. It reached out to people from age, in the United States, age 16 to 74. I believe it was 16 to 64 in the rest of the world. And it was given every 10 years. So the last test was in 2023 and the results were released in December 2024. It takes about a year for a test to be analyzed. And it looked at literacy, reading ability, numeracy, which you could consider math or number ability, and for the first time it looked at adaptive problem solving. So, what do these results show? So what it shows is almost identical to what our other test data is showing with children and young people, is that there's being a severe decline. And in this case, the decline is bigger in literacy than it is with math, and that's true in the United States as well. Now, what's striking to me is this decline goes across all age groups, all education levels, all income levels. It's going down across all levels. In the United States, only 44% of people can read at the highest level, and traditionally that's been about 50%, so that's a pretty big decline. And we have 28% of adults who read at the lowest level. So that means that over 1 in 4 people that you encounter on the street, in the at work, at your your grocery stores, when you're shopping, the people you meet just at your church or your community, they can't read hardly at all. And that's a very, very striking statistic, and it's much bigger than it was even 10 years ago. And what's interesting to me is that this is across age as well. And then there's a very big gap with a very big drop in older adults, people who might be even retired in their 60s and 70s. And that really surprised me. We hear a lot in the news about how the education system is failing students, and this shows that there's a problem that's bigger than that. It's a societal problem, because people who are in their 60s and 70s, their schooling was very, very different than ours today. It was more focused on basics. Obviously, there's less technology involved. It was just a very different setup. Students with disabilities didn't have a lot of programs for them, and English learners weren't really served in those schools. So we can't blame this all on the education system. Something's going on. And it's also, worldwide, it's showing the same type of trend. So worldwide, there was only improvement in literacy in the 10 years in Finland and Denmark. And literacy really went down the most in Korea, which is considered a pretty big country with education, Lithuania, New Zealand, and Poland. So that's a wide variety of countries, and they're very different culturally and in their education systems and how they teach. And then worldwide, Finland, the Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden were best, but even those showed some students who didn't know how to read. And what it also found was that Singapore and the US was the most unequal from high to low. So again, this echoes what we're seeing in schools for young people, that there's this huge gap between high and low achieving students that something's going on. And then it found some other things that could be influenced by immigration, because usually people, when they immigrate, they do that for economic reasons, and the countries they come from may not have a very strong economic system. They may have an opportunity to get education. But overall, this is just really, really interesting to me, because, again, people like to blame the school system, or they like to blame, modern parenting. And there are some problems with modern parenting. There are. And there are some problems with the school system. I talk about that a lot. But the fact that this is happening across the board, internationally, and at every age group, every income level, there's not a huge difference. And it's all pretty much very similar to each other. That tells me that there's something societal going on. And we know that IQ, or intelligence, can fluctuate over a lifetime. So depending on when you take the test, you may score 20 points or 20 points higher, 20 points lower, which is a huge gap. The difference between an 80 and 100 is huge. And we know that there's something called the Flynn effect also, which was where for about the early 1900s to the 1990s, IQs were rising about 3 points each decade. In other words, people were doing better. Each decade, people were learning better and were able to do more with math and with reading. But that largely went down in the 1990s. And we know that there are environmental things that can affect intelligence, like exercise, skills, nutrition. And we know that things like stress and substance abuse, mental health problems can make it worse. And I also wonder about reading. I couldn't find something that backed this up by research, but if people don't read, even when they're older, they can lose some of that reading skill. So again, this is a societal problem. It's not just the school system's bad, or new math or new reading, or that parents aren't doing a very good job. And it makes me wonder again about the roles of reading, the roles of technology, and what's going on as a society. If we're under a lot of stress, and globally there is a lot of stress, and things that we're seeing in the United States are happening to some level globally. Mental health problems, economic stress, things like that. Is that affecting education? So I find this really interesting. So please, if you have comments on this, please put them in the comments, and I would love to talk to you about this, about what you're seeing. So thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.